Good morning, everybody. Getting a weird shadow now that I turned it on. Okay, anyway, there we go. Hi, I hope everybody's having a great day. I wanted to talk about past lives today and about reincarnation and all of those kind of things. So, something that I've talked about a little bit on some other videos, just briefly here and there, is like one of the purposes of life. What is the great question of life? Well, I'll answer one of them right now. It's to experience. It's to go out and experience life, experience all that this world has to offer. Even if you look into a lot of like the Greek mythology and other ancient mythology, the gods are always trying to experience life as a human, as a mortal, as though this is the only life that you have to live, because in this existence, in this body, this is the only life that I live. As this person, this is it. And I can only live this life once. I can't come back and be this person and in these surroundings, around these people, and do all of this again. That's it. You have one opportunity. And that's the purpose of life, is to take that opportunity to experience life, to just experience. And so when we start talking about reincarnation and past lives and what happens after you die, if one of the purposes of life is to experience, then you would have to do it again and again in order to experience all that this world has to offer. And so, maybe you do come back as a bird or another animal or a plant, but you definitely come back as more people. And as a human, we definitely experience this life more than one time. And some people remember their past lives easier than others. They say that children remember them because they're closer and they're more receptive to that energy. And I totally think that's true. Although if you start asking a 2-year-old questions about their past life, I don't think that you're going to get answers like you want. Something about past life regression and working with past lives is... I'm sorry, there's a mosquito. Oh, mosquito. Oh, I got it. Sorry. Anyways, when you're working with past lives, one, you probably weren't Cleopatra or George Washington or, some super cool basketball player. You're probably none of those things. I mean, somebody probably was, but in the reality of it, that soul who was Cleopatra is only one soul. And I've heard like lots of people say, I was Cleopatra. Sorry. It's just, there was only one Cleopatra, so there could only be one Cleopatra now. It's that one soul. It is your soul. It is the energy, the essence, that unique spark that is just you, that makes you you, and it's unique to you, and that is what you carry from this body to the next body. And as a science-based person, I love the research that they're doing between mother and baby, because you can see some of this energetic connection of that soul bond. And there are other research out there that shows this energy that they can measure, but they don't exactly know what it does or how it works. But you know what? I bet it's your soul. Anyways, so that is the energy that transcends from this life to the next, from this body to the next, that is reborn again and again. And so there's only one Cleopatra. Chances are you weren't someone super cool or famous. And when you start doing past life regression, the first memories that are going to come to you, the first things that are going to come to you are intense moments that had a deep impact on your life. It's not going to be like a photo shoot of like a photo montage of the life. Typically the first things that you will recognize, like the first images that will come to you, are very, very emotional. For me personally, one of my first ever past life regression visions was a meditation I was doing, and I'm like an adolescent. I can't place how old I am, but I know that I'm an adolescent. I would say, between like 9 and 13. And I'm hiding in some bushes, and I'm hiding, and there are other small children with me that I have huddled into these bushes, and the house is on fire, and there are people riding around on horseback. And I don't experience this as like I'm watching it through a movie. You experience this as though you're feeling it from the inside. because that's where it's coming from. It's coming from your soul. So this moment had a deep, deep impact on me in that life. It was very traumatic, so traumatic that I done other past life regression work on other lives. Well, one other life. And I still won't go back to the, like I've tried here or there, but this moment is so intense and so real, and I experience it as a child, and that feeling is overwhelming, and so it's something that is hard to work with, and I'm sure eventually I'll be able to get through that, but when you're in that moment and you're feeling it as you felt it in that moment for the first time, and you're really feeling it, like as though you were really, I mean, you were there, so that's what you're feeling. You're feeling those feelings just again, and when you feel that, it can be really intense. And because that's a memory of a child, it makes it even more intense because I'm feeling it as a child. So they're not all like that. I've also had past life work with another life where I was a man, and I can see my wife and the beauty and the love in her eyes that we share with each other. And it's very passionate love, and it's just a moment of beautiful, we're in the woods, it's amazing. And it's just her face, and we're just looking at each other, and it's beautiful, and it's a beautiful moment. And so you'll also get those. They're not just scary, they're also beautiful. So when you start doing past life work, you need to be prepared for that, and be prepared for an emotional response, and for it to be okay for it to be too much. You have to be in a safe space. And the biggest hurdle I think that every person has to struggle with is letting go of the fact that you are not Cleopatra. Okay, the one person out there who was Cleopatra, that's awesome. To everybody else, probably weren't Cleopatra, and you just gotta let that go. If you go into it with thoughts and you're thinking, oh, this is what I was, or this is what I think I was, or I read a book and this time history really resonated with me, so I must have been in that history. Now, yes, that is possible, but you can't make that what you're looking for, because then you won't find the truth. When you're doing this kind of magic work or meditation or, shaman work, even divination, the more pre-notions you have, the more thoughts that you have, they're like, this is what I'm going to find, this is what I think I'm going to find, this is what I want to find, this is what I should find. Anytime you think those thoughts before you do it, you are interfering with the amount of honesty that you're going to get back. Think about it like when you're doing research, like research bias. One of the things that people talk about a lot is that you will look for research that fits your question. So if I said I want to prove that past lives exist, and I went out and did a bunch of research and only pulled research that proved my theory, I would have a huge hole, okay? Because there are a lot of people who are like, you don't come back, you die and you go to heaven, or you die and you go to whatever, or you die and this is what happens to you. Or you're an atheist and you believe that you die and your body goes into the ground and that's it. Whatever. So if I only looked for research to fit one thing, then that's what I would find. And it's the same thing with your magic. If you go into your magic, especially when you're doing meditation or divination or introspection even, if you go into it thinking, I already know what my problem is, I already know what my solution is, I already know what I need, then those are the things that you're going to see. And you're going to miss whatever it is that you're supposed to be told. And I see it often when people are like, this is what it is, and this is what it is, and this is what it is, and then you feel out their energy, and it just doesn't seem to fit. And it's because this is what they want it to be, and that's what they're trying to manifest. So to go do spell work then. I mean, you can't do spell work to say, I want to be this in my last life. That doesn't work. But you can do spell work to say, I want to achieve these traits in my life now, because those are things that I value. So you could get the noble, honest entrepreneur of Cleopatra, and call to that energy and try to manifest those things in yourself. But you can't make yourself Cleopatra. But if you go into your past life regression work with an open heart and an open mind and feeling your own soul and just being ready for it, then you'll find that truth. And some of the things now that I find in my magic practice that really resonate with me are things that come from my past life. And I always have this argument kind of silently, and I don't, well, not silently, I guess. I always point out when people are like, oh, you can only practice what your ancestors practiced. Okay, well, my ancestors in this life were of, well, realistically, all different things. My family's been in America for many years. We've got all different things. You can't just say, I am Irish, because that's not true. So, um, but mostly from Northern Europe, from Europe, when in the European thing, and then once in America, there's some color thrown in there, and it's a beautiful addition, and we love it. And it's what makes you eclectic, but my ancestors are from all over. And then in my past lives, I was, I have the ancestors from those lives, and there are practices that I didn't understand why I understood them until I started doing past life regression. So you can't discredit your practice by only going with, oh, my ancestors. Now, I guess if you are 10th generation Swedish, it makes very much sense to practice that, because that's what you are. Your family, your whole family descends from this one place. You all live in this country. For those of us who are in America, or even in Great Britain and in Australia and all of these places that have been colonized for so long and traveled, and through the many ways that it was done, both good and bad, but people were brought together, and they are very much an eclectic community. And in those eclectic communities, you can't say, well, I only have this in my bloodline. I just read this whole thing about one of our founding fathers and his, let's not even go there. Anyways, but it brings in the point that you're not just one thing. And in your last life, you also probably weren't the same as this. I can guarantee you, in my last life, I was not a white woman in America in this situation. That it's just not how, it's not how it works. You don't repeat this life. You don't repeat this presence. Chances are I was a man in my last life, or I was African American, or I was Native American, or I was in another country altogether. And maybe, who knows? Who knows? Because I don't know what my exact last life was. There's a big gap, really big gap in my life, whatever. And maybe you spend a long time in the cauldron of rebirth between lives. Or maybe there's just a life I'm missing. But it'll come slowly. It'll come piece by piece. And you have to stay open to it. One of my best past life regressions that I've ever had, my husband was driving, and we were coming down a canyon, and I was kind of dazing off, and we were just driving, and it was traffic, it was taking forever. I could literally feel the woods calling to my soul in a way that I've never felt before. And so I just let it come to me, and I went into that meditative state, and I let it come to me, and I received actually one of the most vivid and inclusive past life regressions I've ever had. And it was amazing. I got a lot of information in one moment. But again, it climaxed at a very suspenseful moment of being in battle and seeing the person that I care about. I don't even want to go there. It was very emotional. I also came out of this with such an internal bond, I guess, with my own past life, that I had some weird, and I told my sister, who is a psychologist, she says, okay, as like a pagan and a witch, that's really cool. As your therapist, psychologist, trained person, I'm kind of concerned about your emotional well-being, because it was really intense. I felt the passion very deeply. It gave me a strong connection, and I then, there was a moment where people were talking about something, and it was about cultural appropriation and this whole thing, but I had just come out of this moment of it definitely wasn't a white person, and I was a man, and it was a much different experience, and but I came out of it so attached to that person, that presence. I'm not kidding you. I looked through every single picture of the Library of Congress has pictures of Native Americans from the time period to see if I could find my picture. Like, my mania went crazy and wouldn't let it go. But anyways, I did not find the picture. I did find some pictures of people who look very familiar, and they match the like structural genetic faces of the people that I saw in my vision, but I think that my vision was a little earlier than the Library of Congress photos. But anyways, when you start doing this work, you let go of those pre-notions, and you just let it come to you, and you work with that energy, and you feel it. And when those feelings start to arise, and you let it flow, and you let it happen, you can learn a lot. And like I said, you have to let go of thinking I've always been a white person, because you weren't, or whatever. You just have to let it go. You have to, and let it come to you. Let the divine show you. Let your soul show you what you need to see, and your soul will show you what you need to see first. And then you work from there. So if you have any questions about past life regression, you let me know. I'm working on a whole class. It'll be pretty inclusive. We're getting there. Things are coming together with all this free time I'm having. It's, well, aside from this last week. But I hope everybody is having a great day. I hope that your summer is blessed. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and come check it out and see the other videos. And we will talk to you all soon. Ta-ta!